up, G Show Land, and welcome to another episode of the G Show Podcast. I am G1, and this is the Godzilla Block Party. Now, this is going to be a completely different kind of block party. We'll try to talk some Godzilla stuff to lighten the mood, but in all honesty, this is dedicated to my brother, our brother in the community, Anthony, who passed away a year ago. So this one is gonna be a little bit deeper, and we're gonna try to have fun in his honor, because you know what, that's the type of guy he was. But this is a dedication podcast, a dedication Godzilla Block Party to a good friend Anthony, who we all miss dearly and terribly. But before the waterworks start, let me get right into it and introduce you to my panel and co-host today. Joining me again is Gam Z1. Andrew, my brother, how's it going?
Oh, it's going all right, man.
And joining us for the first time in a long time, we got JR back. Bro, what's going on?
It's been a minute.
It has been a minute since you've graced our presence here. Graced us with your presence. Yep, it's backwards. Here at the Godzilla Block Party. Now, like I said, this is a dedication episode. We're missing a lot of people, but a lot of people did want to be on and be here. It's just conflicting schedules is terrible. Like, for instance, G73 Chase, my brother Chase, he really wanted to be here, but he was out of town this weekend, so he couldn't join us. A little later on in the podcast, somewhere, we're going to have Matt G95 join me to say a word or two. But yeah, I mean, like, it is what it is. Our good friend, like I said, he passed away a year ago. And it's been kind of a wild ride thinking about him not being here, him not able to watch Godzilla King of the Monsters and gush over it with us. Because he was a giant Godzilla fan. Not only was he a giant Godzilla fan, in the Facebook community, he was Godzilla infamous, if you will, because of what that man did to that Facebook community. He pretty much shocked the culture of Godzilla fandom with his Godzilla vs. All page. He co-founded that. But he was the #1 active member on that page. And if anybody remembers that page that I hear from Facebook, you know how that page was dedicated to rustling jimmies and upending the norm of the fandom. And both of you guys were a part of that page. I know Gams, you were there from the jump, I think a little bit towards the beginning, and JR, you kind of came in a little bit later, like towards the end of GVA. But so I want, from both of y'all, I'm going to start with you, Gams. I want, a little something that you remembered Anthony doing that touched you, and, well, not touched you, but he probably would have touched you. And just like, what was the nature, being in that freaking message board of GVA? Because I know I've heard horror stories from the man himself, but, I want to hear from you guys.
Well, in terms of, like, personal things with Anthony, like, he helped me out through quite a bit of stuff back when I was first getting out on my own, and I didn't know what to do, because, it was towards the end of my high school career, the beginning of my actual adulthood, that I joined GBA. And Anthony was instrumental. He was my mentor in memes. like literally, GBA. Godzilla has a really strong shit posting community these days, but Anthony was the first one to start shit posting Godzilla stuff.
Yeah, he was.
He was the first one to make Godzilla memes a thing, other than, like, basic normie shit.
Yeah. Real basic.
And, there was a lot of stuff that happened that upended the fandom, like all the stuff with Bagan or Zachary posting things about Godzilla 98, our Lord and Savior. You know, just shoving things in the fandom's face, like making memes shitting on Godzilla himself, you know, losing to a couple of bugs because people think Godzilla's invincible, and it's like, no, fuck you. And pretty much the one thing that Anthony always said was make our memes creative and always put the logo on. Always put the branding on.
Yeah. I don't want to take too much credit for that, but I told him, dude, you should brand your shit. Like watermark it, you know, you need to have your logo on there so people stop stealing that shit.
Indeed. But yeah, like the GBA days were fun, and then one day when most of us stopped being active, I sometimes take the biggest part in that, since, you know, for a good majority of it, it was me and Anthony going back to back carrying the page, and then I just kind of poofed out of existence for a while, as I tend to do sometimes. And after that, I guess Anthony had enough of it, carrying it by himself, and then he ended it. And that sucked. But then the worst thing about it was a couple months, maybe almost a year, nearly a year after he ended the page, he left us himself. And that was probably the most devastated I've been over the loss of a friend like that probably ever. Because like I said, Anthony helped me out through a lot of stuff, and I still miss him to this day.
I think we all do. It's crazy, you know. You see, he had that man had such a huge heart. He was so full of just, you know, like, outside of the crazy, you know, persona you saw on that Facebook page, the meme maker, the hysterical meme maker, the creative meme maker, the sometimes frustrating meme maker. That dude had a heart of gold. He really did. It's unbelievable and undeniable. If you knew him, you cannot deny that man's heart. And what he would, you know, just how he just was with us, with his peoples, with his friends. If you knew the man, you knew that was a good dude. And yeah, I'll touch on that a little bit more later. There's a couple of other things I want to talk about, but JR, you had the pleasure of working with him and knowing him also. We've had the pleasure of arguing on this very podcast, you know, a couple years back, whether it was about shit Godzilla or, you know, just any of the old Showa movies, GMK. We did it all, man. We had a really good time, man. What's some of your favorite memories of him and what he meant to you?
I'll start with some of the best memories would be arguing with him, surprisingly, because of the different tastes that we did have in some things. I mean, there were things we agreed on, like, for instance, some Star Wars stuff. We always, like, agree, but when it came to Godzilla, like, 90% of the time we disagree. And that's what I still miss about him, is being able to have an argument with someone, but it's not like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, or, yeah, well, of course he told me to shut the fuck up, but, you know, the hostility that comes with a lot of fandoms nowadays, it never got like that. We could have a genuine discussion, and then, you know, when I joined Gay, he came up with my name, Shitfaced Kong, because whenever anyone on that page would post anything Shitfaced Kong related, I'd immediately be on that. I would laugh at it. I'd make some stupid comments or something. And, you know, I wasn't a part of GBA for too long, but I'm glad I was. And, you know, Anthony, he meant a lot to me. And I'm sorry.
No, you good.
See, I don't talk about him because I get like this.
You know what he would do right now, right? He'd come down here and he'd smack you in the face and say, "Stop acting like a little bitch."
I know.
He would do that. He would slap you with a meme right now.
I know he would.
He'd slap you with a Godzilla 98 meme.
And, you know, I won't get into specifics on some of the things he helped me through, but he was always someone I could talk to. He was a true friend. And, you know, he sent me, I still have the message, 1 in the morning, February 13th. He sent me a YouTube video.
Uh-huh.
That's the last thing he ever said to me. Was a Godzilla Super Friends YouTube video. And because for obvious reasons, I mean, it was 1 in the morning, I didn't immediately get to that message. And, someone else take it over.
I got the same message at around that time. I too got the same super friend, kaiju friends, and I'm scrolling through it
The last thing Anthony sent me was a meme about "I know you."
I know you. Yes, the most infamous words to come out of your mouth. Yeah, I've got it. A year ago today, as a matter of fact, as we record, as of this recording, February 13th, 2019, at 12:57 a.m. And, you know, I'm sleeping at that time. I get up for work early in the morning and stuff, but it's the same thing. The My Kaiju Godzilla Super Friends, that's one of the funniest things. I'm posting that on the G Show page, actually, today. But, like, I didn't respond. And that's the frustrating part, because he would send a lot of stuff my way, and I would not respond until like maybe a couple weeks later. I won't even lie. I hit him with a laughing face emoji, because I never write LOL. That's stupid in my book. But like, I'm just looking at I'm looking at some of the stuff. December 26, 2018. There's a meme. "Oh yeah, baby, tell me what you want. Talk to me like you're a fucking idiot. Godzilla King of the Monsters is going to be a box office failure and lead to the cancellation of the MonsterVerse." That's perfect.
Wait, Anthony was the first one to coin that phrase?
Yes.
Well then, screw you, Gray Taylor. You're not the OG with that one.
Which one? Wait.
Oh, he's this guy on Toho.
No, what did he say? What did he try to coin?
Godzilla King of the Monsters is going to be a box office failure and lead to the cancellation of the MonsterVerse.
Yep, that was December 26th in 2018 at 12:30 in the afternoon. Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy, man. I'm gonna read what I wrote, like, when this thing was official, and this was February 22nd. I think it was Zachary. Yep, Zachary sent me a message, and I was like, "Shut up, bro!" Like, it early in the morning, woke me up, and I'm like in my head, I'm like, "Shut up, don't do this." And of course, I went to his page, and I'm seeing all of these messages, and I'm freaking fuck out. I'm like, "Wait, what?" Like, dude, you just sent me this funny ass video yesterday, and I didn't even get a chance to laugh at it. And so I wrote at 5:17 in the morning, "I want this to be a joke. I really do. I would laugh uncontrollably, but only if you tell me that it's a joke. I don't get back to you when you hit me up, and that's on me. A personality flaw on my end. But But never think that every time I seen you hit me up, I wasn't grateful. I was and am. To have known you as one of the most genuine guys I've ever met without any judgment. We laughed together so much during the podcast. That rise and fall of GVA is still one of my favorite things we collaborated on. Dude, tell me it's a joke. And the reason why I wrote rise and fall of GVA is because he hated that. He said GVA never fell. It's the life and death. I was like, all right. Or I think. It was one or the other. Anyhow, dude, tell me it's a joke. Tell me you didn't move on. Tell me you're planning something that's going to rustle the jimmies of everyone you've become friends with here in cyberspace. I'll keep your secret, I promise. But please don't be gone. We still have to see King of the Monsters together and go to G-Fest and rustle their jimmies. Damn, I love you, brother. I love you forever and a day. And I wish I would have told you that more. And then I put the broken heart thing. And the crazy thing is, somebody read that because you know when you do Messenger and you click it and you see it, your little thing pops up, like at the bottom. Yeah, it popped up. It popped up on his. Look, I'll be honest with you. In typical Anthony fashion, what if he took a fucking year off, went underground completely, and later on tonight or even tomorrow, he's gonna come back with a brand new GVA page with 1,000 fucking memes ready to go and say, fuck all y'all, I am back. Because that is typical Anthony. He would do that.
He would, but he'd probably have to do it with a new Facebook profile. Because if you notice, his actual Facebook profile is now a Facebook memorial page.
Oh, I didn't know that, no.
And I was the one that did that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I was the one that notified Facebook that Anthony had passed, and they memorialized his profile.
Wow, I didn't know Facebook do that. That's actually pretty dope. Wow, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. I'll tell you something I said I was gonna touch on, like his character, everything that he does. When I say he has a huge heart, he's a genuinely good guy, regardless on what the internet persona or the Facebook persona might tell you. Anthony was a wrestler too. And that's one of the things me and that man bonded over. And I mean, there are times, I might even have some recordings, previously unreleased recordings that I'm going to probably dig up and listen to this long weekend, just in case. And maybe even post it. But we would go on and on about wrestling. And this dude was a wrestler. He's an entertainer. He knows the business. He knows how to work people. And that's what he used to do to perfection with GVA. So, like, that's why I say, the man himself outside of the ring is different from the man in the ring. The man in the ring is a killer. The man outside is one of the sweetest dudes you'll ever meet. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, like, a legit, genuinely good guy sort of way. And I know this because I met the guy. I met him. I hung out with him. And it was just such a fun time to, even though it was like maybe an hour and a half, but for that hour and a half in downtown Disney, Los Angeles, we cracked up so much. And that was the first time we met, but it was because of Facebook, because I don't even think we were doing the block party yet. We might have been. I'm not sure. But because of Hangouts and just being able to bullshit with, it was like I've known him my whole life. He was like, a friend I haven't seen in a long time, and we was catching up. And it was the first time we were like literally, meeting each other face to face. And it was so much fun. And that always carried over into the podcast. Into the after parties. I mean, you guys were involved with us several times where, the podcast is over, but the party just begun. Yeah. And we would go, look, make no mistake, everybody knows that when I get on the podcast, I am cracking a couple of cold ones and going in. Back in them days, though, I was so bombed out my face, slurring words left and right, and could not stop laughing because this man just kept going. His foot was always on the pedal. He knew what to say. He was hysterical. Like JR said, you always had a couple of shut the fuck ups in there. The laughing. the GVA takeover when I got all you motherfuckers on the damn podcast. And I always had to remind them, yeah, you take over my ass. It's my show, goddammit. You're my guest. But, I mean, in all honesty, when he was on shit, I let him go. He was the show, you know, because he was just nice with it. He really was. The dude knew how to control the crowd. And Jesus Christmas, bro. I do miss that. I absolutely do miss that. I miss shitting on him with Shit Godzilla too. I miss having those fights, those arguments. Some of those are classic.
Because he was with me in liking that movie.
Mm-hmm. You know, there was a couple others. I mean, I think I ran off a couple of regulars on the Godzilla Block Party with my just unabashed hate for that movie. And I would not let up. I was a little relentless, but he was always there. We were just banging heads.
You see, those people were just too spineless to keep on pushing back like I do.
Well, I know you do it. You constantly do it. I mean, I don't know why I keep you on. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, like, all right. So let me switching gears a bit. Let me ask y'all, like, what were some of y'all favorite memes he did? Like, what are the ones that were like, okay, this is fucking genius? So I'll start with you, JR, if you're good to go.
Yeah, I am. Sorry. His shit-faced Kong memes before I took him over. Some of those were just genius. I have them still saved on my phone, on my computer, like multiple copies, so I'll never lose them. I mean, they were genius. You know, and just the idea that he came up with the that specific King Kong from that movie being that drunk, just looking like an alcoholic. I mean, it was fucking genius. You know?
Yeah, that's true.
And you know, one thing I always would send my memes to him for approval when I took over the shit-faced Kong role, and some of the ones he loved was I would take a picture of a naked girl and put shit-faced Kong's face over her face, and then put GVA over her breasts or something ridiculous like that, and I'd send them to him, and he would have to approve or deny to go on the page, and some of them did not get approved.
Even he had his boundaries and limitations.
Oh yeah, that's one thing. He always would have to, you know, he reined me in sometimes because I'd push it just a bit too far, and I was always nice with him. It's like he knew when to not cross that line. That's why I went to him with my memes, because I would constantly cross that fucking line.
Oh my god. Well, real quick, you kept saying gay. Just for clarification, tell people what gay is.
Godzilla Against Everyone is the follow-up page to GVA. I think it was Kevin got a hold of me literally like a week or two after GVA was shut down, and we came up with gay. I continued to be shit-faced Kong, and we got all the other admins, at least most of them, back in.
I was still talking about it, so I refused it first.
Yeah. But it was Anthony approved. You know, he never told us, no, don't do it. He said, yeah, keep it going. I'll pop in. I'll make a meme every now and then. I'll pop up as Ghost Godzilla and post a meme. I'll send you guys memes that I'll make and just post them on my behalf. And we'd always we still do it sometimes. It's just kind of make Ghost Godzilla strikes again. Where is he coming from? You know, keep a theme going with it. And
the ghost of GVA.
Yeah, the ghost of GVA.
I love that. Rest in pepperoni. That was the best.
But I mean, I've got a few that he sent me in Messenger still that I would have to post for him, because I would think I was like, oh, I thought you sent the meme to Kevin to post, and he's like, no, I sent it to you to post, so fucking do it. I'm like, okay. Oh, sorry. But yeah, so with his blessing, we made it, and you know, and none of us really post that often on there anymore. I mean, that's what was one of the biggest faults of GVA carried over to gay. I mean, gay's still around. Every once in a while, someone will post. I mean, me shit, I can't remember the last time. I just, between work and coming home dealing with kids, I never have time anymore.
My fault is I keep on making my memes branding free and just posting them to Toho Kaiju posting because a bit petty, but that group has more members.
Yeah. Well, I think on Gay we just passed 1,000. The last time I checked, but it's one of those things, and I'm not gonna lie, with the passing of Anthony, it really killed some momentum for me wanting to post. Like, it's just like, I could send my memes to Fagin for approval or just to see if I pushed it too far, but Fagin goes over the line too. So we go over the line together, and no one's there to rein us in.
Of course, I mean, I'm not going to say who did it because that's still going to remain a mystery to this day. But Anthony did approve of the Nakajima death hoax that happened a month before his actual death.
My God.
That was genius.
That was discussed. That was discussed in the Life and
in
Death.
The greater fandom, that pissed off even big time, quote unquote, big time fans like Matt Frank and shit.
Oh boy, the conversations we could have there, but no,
that's why I put it in quotes.
That was huge, man. Like, y'all really took it there and went and used. I mean, like, yeah, you had a lot of big wigs in the fandom, a lot. Jesus Christ, and he got a kick out of it. He got a fucking kick out of it. He could not stop laughing. It is, that's what
I fondly remember when I first joined GBA, and I presented my first meme to Anthony. He said he absolutely loved it, and it's still probably my first meme I ever posted to GBA is probably my favorite meme I've ever made for GBA, which was literally a period joke.
Oh boy. And it goes.
It's an image of Godzilla from the Dark Horse comics. Specifically, I think it was like issue 1 or 2 where Godzilla's mouth is all bloody. Yeah. And I cropped out where it just shows Godzilla's bloody mouth and I put the caption, "Baby, the only thing a period ends is a sentence."
Oh my God. Yep. And that was GBA right there. That was GBA. Oh my God.
You know what other ones I really like that he did were the my corns always hurt when there's a monster around. From the original King Kong versus Godzilla, the guy complaining about his corns. He would always send me them, and they just crack me the fuck up, dude.
I tell you, I remember when he said, "I'm gonna get into the Godzilla Facebook page community," and I tell him all the time. I told him on our interview. I tell him all the time. I was not a fan of that shit, bro. Godzilla was wholesome and shit, and you over here just raising hell. And I'm like, good God Almighty, it's bad enough I'm in the Star Wars fandom, and I got to deal with that shit. But to take Godzilla and then just the giant monster scene in general. But it was clever. A lot of it was clever, and it was something that wasn't done before, and it really just like it divided a fandom. It divided the fandom the way Shin Godzilla divided the fandom. It was so good.
Yeah, it divided the fandom into just the normal fans who like to like post about how strong Godzilla is and how every movie is perfect. And shit posters who like to call out the other people.
It's just fucking nuts. It really is. I can't say enough how he literally kind of flipped the whole fandom on its head, because he did. And again, you have that prank with Nakajima, and it's just like people fucking thought it was real. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, weren't people like with connections and ties to him and his His family, like,
Oh yeah, they got mad too.
oh
They got
jeez,
pissed the hell off.
unbelievable.
Well, what was funny about the incident though is like when it went live on GBA, like everyone started sharing it, regardless. I mean,
Yeah, it blew up. It blew up hard.
Was it
like
like
I still remember that too, like my phone going off and shit because I didn't know what was going on. I was like, oh, okay. So Anthony was like, "Do me a favor, don't say shit." Like, all right, and I didn't. Kept my mouth shut. Just let it run its course, and it was great.
Oh yeah, yeah. And to this day, none of us will reveal who actually posted that.
That's true. That's true. I don't know. So I couldn't tell you anyway. And I'll take that to the grave. But that shit was fucking... Like, I had no idea what was going on. I had zero clue. Even when he sent it to me, I was like, what are you doing, bro? Like, because I knew it was a joke because it was coming from him. You know? I'm not one of those diehard crazy Uber fans, like, you know, that buy into everything. And again, coming from a site like GVA, they should have just fucking got it. You know what I mean? They should have just picked up on it. Like, it had to be fake. But again, that was the kind of the genius of your page, because, and one of the things I remember him telling me was, yes, our focus was making jokes and pissing people off, but every now and then we put real legit news up there. If something was happening within the Monsterverse or Toho was doing something, we threw it up there. We put real legit news. He was like, because we had a fan base, we had a huge community, and hell, if we can beat somebody else with a bigger fan base or community to the punch with legit news, we do that. I remember him saying that. So when you put something like this up, after, I don't know, let's say, after 3 straight months of fucking jokes and memes and just craziness, people going to say, holy shit, what the fuck? And go a little bit crazy. And good God almighty, man. What a spectacular prank to pull off. And by no means, ladies and gentlemen out there, am I condoning the prank. But I'm saying, though, reflecting on it.
This was close to the end of GBA, too. So it was like a one last prank to send off.
Let's see how far we can really go. I'm surprised he didn't dig up any of JR's old memes, the ones that weren't approved. Let's really push the envelope. Forget it. We wouldn't even have this podcast.
No. Let's just say some of those memes I've scrubbed from existence because I was like, holy shit. And even was like, yo, that's kind of fucked up. Like, yeah, but that's just my humor. And to make him be like, yo, that's fucked up, I always enjoyed that.
I tell you, I remember because of him, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do some shit too. I'm going to do a G-Show page after dark and call it the G-Show After Dark. And it's going to be me stealing a bunch of memes, slapping my own logo on top of theirs, and just like stupid shit like that. And then I came up with something like Godzilla in jail. I forgot what it was, but I was like, dude, because when I told him about it, he was cracking up hysterical. I showed him some images that I was going to use and stuff, and he was like, let me help you. And I'm like, get out of here. You get your own page to run. I can do this by my goddamn self, you know, because it's stubborn and shit. But that page was very short-lived because I was like, you know what? I got to work. I got another page to run. I mean, like, to come up and start creating shit when you could just steal other people's shit is way easier to steal other people's shit, which is what I started to do. But, yeah, man, I'll tell you, I was like, I can match wits with this guy. I don't have the patience to sit there and create memes. If we're going to match wits, we're going to do it one-on-one, face-to-face, or over this, you know, Facebook or Messenger. We're going to do it like this, you know what I mean? Where we can just go at it. And that's what we did. That's what we did plenty of times. Again, and they're all on this YouTube page. You just go back in time and look at some of them older videos from 2-3 years ago. And you'll see, we were just maniacs. And look, a lot of it came from, like, the Shin Godzilla stuff. When Shin Godzilla was first coming out, the first trailers, a lot of impromptu shit. He was on with us. Just like very early, Godzilla block party stuff. Just listen, especially because back then we used to have a crew. It'd be like 8 of us on at one time. It was very crazy, but.
Oh yeah, I distinctly remember the GMK review podcast where JR and Anthony went back and forth.
Oh shit!
We were still doing it too up till his last days. I'd randomly be like, "Hey yo, just want to let you know, GMK sucks," and be like, "Yeah, fuck you, you fucking suck." I'm like, "Why you gotta make it personal?"
Yeah, exactly what. Oh man, it sucks. It does. But again, I think he'd rather us goof off like this than be all sad and mournful. That wasn't him. That wasn't what he was about at all.
He was not about that.
Nope. He wanted, his whole thing was to have a good time, make people laugh, and just piss people off. And check, and check. Okay, seriously, and that's what I love and miss about him too. Seriously, I think, I don't know if it was over Facebook, if we were doing this, or it was a phone call. The last time I spoke to him, but I remember the phone call. I was out in my yard. I was cleaning up my yard. It was Saturday or Sunday. Hell, it could have actually been during the summer where I was off. So it could have been just like some random day in the week. Anyhow, he called me and we were bullshitting, and he was telling me, that he was going in a different direction in life. I'm not gonna, divulge that, what he was doing, but needless to say that, he found the path and he was going to follow it. And I mean, I do nothing but wish him the best of luck and raise an eyebrow. But I was like, dude, you do you and shit. And we just bullshitted, like, just talked about life in general. Like, we didn't talk about Godzilla or nothing. We just talked about life, and it was kind of refreshing. You know what I mean? But again, that was the type of person he was. Like, literally, I'll tell you a story on top of all the other stories I'm telling. The first time I, found out about this dude was when we first put the Facebook page up, and that was back in 2012. We went live in October of 2012 on Facebook, and before the year's end, there was this one dude constantly messaging, talking on the post, sending us messages, and I started like messaging him back and like, yo, what's up? Like, just a kindred spirit. And I was like, this dude is cool. This dude is pretty cool. And again, I didn't know him from a hole in the wall, but it turned out it was Anthony, and he was like, dude, this page is awesome. Like, I remember that, and I'm like, wow, thanks, bro, I appreciate that. And then, in our little Facebook community, we got a group together for everybody that had a page pertaining to giant monsters and shit.
Oh yeah, the League of Kaiju Admins that are Kaiju Admin that are Kaiju Admin.
Yes. And he was the only one without a page, and I remember, I think Al Dorenzo ran that group, and they let him in.
Yeah, I think that's how we met.
Yeah, that's exactly how we met. And they let him in, and he was in there, and as somebody who didn't need, the GVA wasn't there yet, and he would just be in there, and then that's where, I talked about the watermarks with him. I'm like, dude, mark your shit. Don't let them steal your shit. Mark it. Which is funny because when I started G Show After Dark, I was stealing his shit and putting my mark over his mark. It's crazy how all that just went and spiraled and tumbled and just went into its own fucking place from us sharing his page in the infancy to everybody else begging him to share our pages because all of a sudden, overnight, he went from 0 to 5,000, and then from 5,000 to 15,000. It was just nuts. It was just nuts. I don't care what he says. The fucking rise and fall of GBA. It's probably life and death. I don't even remember anymore, but it is what it is. It is what it is, man. I miss that dude. I do. But yeah. Does anybody else got anything else they want to say about Anthony before we kind of put this to bed for a bit?
I mean, I still miss him to this day. And I'm pretty jealous of him because he probably watched King of the Monsters on a bigger screen than earthly possible up in heaven.
Motherfucker probably saw Godzilla vs. Kong already.
So, when I got the news, I didn't believe it at first. Baggin told me. I think Baggin pretty much told everyone. My wife, was wondering why my phone was blowing up before I was even awake, so she knew before me, and she didn't know how to break it to me. And I didn't believe it. And, I was telling Baggin, like, yo, that's fucked up. This is fucked up. This ain't funny. Because I had just had my cousin pass away. It was August of 2018. I grew up with my cousin, and she passed away in a car accident. So I'm like, yo, that's too soon. I don't want to be joking about this shit. And he's like, yo, I'm not joking. And, since then, it doesn't feel real. I still feel like it's a fucking joke.
Yep.
And I think that's why it still, hurts as much as it does, because I expect any fucking minute, like you were saying in the beginning, like any minute, now he's just going to be like, no, I was just fucking with you guys. It was just a big old joke, and it hasn't happened yet. And, it's hard. It's really hard. It's hard when you lose someone that you're friends with, someone that you're close to. And I know he wouldn't want us to dwell. He'd want us to continue on and party. But, and he'll always be with us. And he'll always be with me. He'll always be with you guys. And, the one thing I'll say is this short amount of time I knew him, man, it was a fucking blast.
Oh, yeah.
And I think maybe.
Yeah. I think maybe later on, either today or tomorrow, I'm probably going to remind all the shit posters in Toho Kaiju posting who started this movement.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. You get in there, you show them, you wrestle their jimmies. I'm gonna fucking share his page tomorrow. I think, matter of fact, on our weekly Friday Godzilla block, I think tomorrow is going to be a Friday Godzilla versus All block. Just because. Which means now I have to go and look for the fucking page again. Skip through the fucking thousands upon thousands of memes because that man posted fucking 25 memes a day. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous if you fucking ask me. It's retarded. It's overkill. He left no place in the market for any kind of competition. He's a goddamn jerk off. You hear me, Anthony? You damn jerk off. Shit, Godzilla's a piece of shit. Come fight me, motherfucker. I'm going to trip and die right now when I walk out of here. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going with him because he's going to get me. But I miss doing that with him. I miss that banter back and forth. It was so much fun. I'm going to seriously listen to tonight. I'm going to listen to that podcast, that part 1 and 2, and just laugh my fucking. Or if I don't listen to that, I'll probably listen to one of the better impromptu Godzilla block parties during the Filipino Shin Godzilla trailer, where I was already lushed out of my face, and it was just I just couldn't stop laughing the entire time. It was so good. But yeah, coming up, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned because we're gonna have words with Matt, his take, and if I can, hopefully Chase, because that's the last thing I will say. If it wasn't for him, if it wasn't for Anthony, I wouldn't have known Chase. Chase was the first person that he brought to my attention. I asked Matt, and I asked him when we started the podcasting, when we started the YouTube channel. I said, "Hey, I want to do this Godzilla block party. Or I want to do this Godzilla podcast. I didn't have a name for it yet. I said I want to do this Godzilla podcast because I don't see it. Like, it's not around. And, you know, we constantly type about it all the time. Why not talk about it, like, legit, have these conversations and shit? And he was like, yeah, dope, let's do it. You know, me and Matt, me and G95, we started it. It was just us two at the beginning. But then, you know, if it wasn't for Anthony, Chase was the first person he brought to my attention. And, you know, I really hope that Chase is able to say some words on this podcast. I'm going to try to get in touch with him and try to record something and put it in here somewhere. Because, you know, he deserves his share. And he deserves his say. But yeah, man. So, yeah, that'll do it for this. And I know it's a little different. But you know what? We honor the man because that man was someone to honor. Whether you loved him or you didn't, he was a genuinely good dude. I said that a million times in this. He was. He had a big heart, and ultimately, that's what cost him. But I love you, brother. I do. I miss you. And again, like, I would be pissed off because you disappeared for a year. But if you were to come out of nowhere and say, "Fool you," bro, I'm going to say this, ladies and gentlemen, cover your kids' ears right now. This ain't for kids anyway, right? This is not for kids, but I swear to God, brother, you know me, I used to always joke like this, but you come out and say I was only kidding, I'd go suck your dick, brother. I really would. Put that shit on a meme. I'd be like, I'm glad you're back, bro. I'm just kidding. I'm not gay. He is. But, yeah, so, listen, JR, man, thank you for joining us.
No problem.
Appreciate you, brother. Gams, thank you again.
Of course, man. Rest in everlasting peace, Antony.
I think on 3 we should do a rest in pepperoni. What do you think?
Oh, yes.
Ready? On 3 all together? 1, 2, 3. Rest in pepperoni,
man.
I love you, bro. I'm here with G95, my brother Matt, who, in the beginning of this whole YouTube thing, it was just me and him. I didn't know what I was doing. And Matt was my right hand at the time on the G Show, like helping me post and stuff. And we just went for broke. We started with a superhero talk, but we knew eventually we were going to get to Godzilla. And when we did get to Godzilla, we knew, and then we did, I think, we did a couple. We did several Godzilla podcasts on our own. But we knew we were going to want more people, and we had these discussions. And the only person that would be able to supply pretty much more people to the podcast was Anthony. And I think we were both in agreement, right, brother?
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, we bring him in and we explain to him what we wanted to do. And in no time, we were rocking and rolling on the Godzilla block party. And we had, you know, at times we had 8, 9 people at once. And that was the heyday, the very beginning of this podcast.
The Wild West, if you will.
Oh, God, you ain't lying.
A wild territory of people just yelling over each other.
It was the best of times, and it was the best of times. But you were again, like I said, you were my go-to. You were the first. You were there with me from the beginning of this YouTube channel and doing these things. Let me ask you, did you have any trepidation when I mentioned Anthony's name in terms of bringing people on board?
No, I don't think so. It's a little hard to remember some of those earlier days where the ball was just getting rolling, with bringing new people on. But I feel like having Anthony was in our back pocket as a go-to is always part of the equation, just because his reach was so vast compared to ours. Is, you know, if there was money involved, he would have been bankrolling us, I think, for us to do our crazy thing, as long as he could pop in and do his crazy thing.
Shit, that's actually wow. That's the nail on the fucking head right there, bro. Yeah, you ain't lying. We've we've had him on several million times, and you've just alluded to the screaming matches that we've had. And yeah, again, it has been a long time. But is there anything in particular that might stand out from you and shit, Godzilla, where you might have agreed, where there was a disagreement, and we were just constantly harping back and forth? Because we did have a lot of fun time podcasts. Mm-hmm. But is there anything that might stand out for you?
I think the one thing, it must have been our original review of Godzilla 2014, and it was me, you, Anthony, probably Chase, probably Andrew, just a bunch of people, maybe Lindsay, and we were just talking about it, having varying discussions on the depth of the characters or the actual lack thereof. Fight me on it.
Yeah, fighting.
And there was something I said that I really don't remember what I said, but I remember Anthony just lost his shit with laughter. It derailed the podcast of his enjoyment of what I said for a good probably 5 or 10 minutes. So much though that I remember that particular one we had to do like a part 2 to it the next day because he wasn't feeling well or something. And on like the following day, he made me repeat that joke, and it went over everybody else's head. And like I remember butchering. I don't even remember the joke, but I remember butchering the delivery the second time, and he still just went crazy with laughter.
We were talking about this earlier, how that was the type of guy he was. He was someone, in his own terms, to Russell Jimmy's. He definitely came in and smashed the fandom over the head with his unique style of humor and his brand, the memes, when you come to Godzilla. And, I've said it, and I've said it a million times, I really, that's not my style. Like, I love Godzilla, and I didn't really care for all that stuff. But he didn't care about that. He was out to make people like me mad. But on the flip side, and this is what I was telling everybody before, on the flip side to that, if you knew the guy, you knew that this dude had a genuine love for Godzilla, and he was a genuine heart. Like, we had conversations either while the thing is recording or not, and he always just came off as a genuine dude and with a lot of love. And that's one of those things I think, if you didn't know him personally, would get lost in translation. The dude was full of heart. He did love his fellow kaiju fans, especially with our group. It was crazy. So, like, did you take anything away from that in terms of, like, just the other side of Anthony?
Yeah, I very much like him. I really enjoy, like, getting on people's nerves and whatnot. But, that doesn't really come across it on so much like when I'm posting, or at the time I had my Destroya page, which, at the time I was one of the big ones with a whopping like 1,300 likes or something like that when GBA showed up, and he had, knocked us all out of the water by breaking, 10,000, the bastard. And yeah, absolutely. He was so full of heart and passion for the fandom and for Godzilla and for, this our subculture, really, that he helped cultivate so much. I remember just sitting back and listening to him talk sometimes because on the podcast, because he had such a deep knowledge and reverence for. He could name any fucking character from any given movie. It just how he does it, how he did it, it was beyond me. To stuff that he hadn't seen for years. It just stuck with him more than I think it stuck with a lot of people. Like he might not have gone like he was an adult. He was an adult about his love for Godzilla. Not to say that he didn't have his like childish nature, as we knew with his rustling of jimmies, but he respected Godzilla, whereas I feel a lot of people don't. They just like, ooh, big dragon man, cool. He really had a deep respect for the kaiju genre, and that always really stuck out to me. I remember when he was just a fan. He was just a person on Facebook that was commenting and liking other kaiju page runners, I guess. He was just a guy that we all really liked because he was always very social. He was always very nice and cordial and funny, and he stood out in a sea of just people commenting, "Cool pick." Godzilla versus Hedorah is my least favorite, or whatever the fuck we were talking about like 6 years ago. And I remember I was invited to that secret / not so secret anymore kaiju.
You could say the name. We did it. Yeah, we already did that one.
I don't remember the name. It's been so long.
It's something about League of Kaiju admins that are admins for kaiju pages on Facebook. Kaiju admin thing.
That's it.
Yes.
That's it. I'm never going to repeat all that. I remember when I got invited to that. It was a pretty big deal for me, and then I remember the talks of inviting Anthony in. I don't remember who brought it up. I wish I did, but I really don't. But somebody brought up, was like, "Hey, there's this guy. His name's Anthony. I'm sure like he seems to like everybody's pages. How do you all feel about bringing him in the group? He's really nice and very sociable, and he's has a similar personality to all of ours." And it was a resounding yes from everybody. I don't remember if you were in the group at this point.
I was there, yeah, because I like you said, and I said this on the podcast earlier. He was one of the first on the G Show page back in 2012 October to start commenting, and like you said, like not just saying cool pick, but like knowing his shit and picking apart things and messaging the page. Like I think he might have been the first person to actually message the G Show page. And I was like, "Who is this dude?" But he was always genuine. Nothing ever felt malicious.
Yeah, it never came off as snobbish either.
No, absolutely. And so, in all of that regard, when I was like yourself invited into that group, I was like, "Oh, okay, shit. Here I am. I'm literally the outsider because we're a geek culture page that just so happens to focus on Godzilla, But there's a lot more to it." Whereas everybody else is just like it's kaiju. So when that question was brought up, how about this guy? And I believe it was the admin from Baggin, my good friend Zach.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you're right. It was a resounding yes, like because he was that guy. He was genuine to all of us. And then, like you said, he also came in and just pulled the rug out from all of us.
Yeah, I remember when he asked us our opinions about starting his own page. And there was a lot of encouragement and like everybody was always very supportive of each other back in those days. We were all really tight knit, and what he did really, well, it blew everybody else's pages out of the water. And at that point, I was starting to fall off, I think, quite a bit too. I wasn't as into it as I was a year or two prior. This is probably, circa 2014, early 2015.
Yep.
And his page was successful right off the bat because we all shared it. We all, hyped this new guy up. And, because in those days it was just like a page centered around a specific monster. And like, I claimed, I claimed Destroya. So like that was, I didn't only post Destroya stuff, but there was no other really big Destroya pages. Same thing with Baggin and Batra, and for a time Gigan and Super Godzilla, and just all these, that was the heyday of individual monster pages. And then Antony comes along with his, in typical Antony fashion, breaking the mold and just doing his own thing with Godzilla versus all. And
you think that was shots fired at us?
No. But I think he probably knew what he wanted to do for a while, and I think he probably thought about it for a good long time before he did it. And then he did it, and he had a fully formed vision for his page. And like, it is not really it is a somewhat superficial sounding thing. I think we're we may be like deifying Facebook pages a little bit, but what people got to understand is like this at a time was a budding community. Like these pages were my online social outlet. I didn't really have a whole lot of, like I just graduated high school. I had work part-time, and I didn't really hang out with my friends so much. I was going through, a fair amount of stuff at the time, and this was a really good outlet for me. And, while it is just Facebook pages, it was so much more too. It really became a community or a family, even in, some of the smaller, tighter knit circles. And he was part of it. Antony was fully part of it on every level. And I don't mean to keep going on and talking about myself, but there was a time where I was starting to fall off, like my page wasn't doing as well. His was just going up and up and up. And this was probably before I joined up with you, where I was strongly considering just leaving the community in general, just deleting my page and just, finding a new avenue through life. And I messaged him. I don't remember what compelled me to message him or a lot of what we talked about. And he convinced me to stay in just because that's the kind of guy he was. He was, I was not, like, there are so many more people who are actual admins on the GBA page or, just closer than I was. But and this was probably my very first time talking to him one-on-one, but, he immediately just treated me with nothing but warmth and love, and, that's just the kind of guy he was.
Yeah, that's true. And that's something we touched upon earlier with the two of those admins, Gams, Andrew and JR. Andrew being there, pretty much from the outset or the onset, and then JR towards the end of GVA. But yeah, you that's exactly everything you just said was exactly Antony to a T. Like, you know, he knew he was crushing us. He knew that, you know, and I sometimes think he took, like, you know, solace in the fact that here I am crushing them. But again, his niche was different than anybody else. We were over here just posting pictures and random news, whatever we can get. And he was just like making fun of it, but with the love of it, you know, like you said earlier, not like, hey, here's just big dragon guy. No, this was Godzilla. This was something he loved, and because he loved it, he was able to make fun of it in a way that appealed to many. You know what I mean? But yeah, you're absolutely right. Like his presence. I mean, you know, I didn't meet you through him, but Chase, Andrew, like, you know, pretty much everybody else came through him. You know what I mean? At least to the point of getting them on the block party. It was him. We already started this whole YouTube thing here on, you know, the G Show YouTube page. We I think our first thing we talked about was Batman v Superman.
Yep.
Right? And then DC Comics in general, and
Star Wars,
and then Godzilla. You know,
we would work our way up to our favorite thing.
Exactly, and we didn't. You know, you were there from the beginning. I didn't have a direct path yet. Like, I didn't have a direction. I just wanted to talk about shit. That's it. You know, you reined me in a lot, but I knew, and we both knew, that Godzilla was definitely amongst the top of the topics we wanted to talk about because of the fandom and because of how we linked up. Because you had a Destroyer page, I had a Geek page that focused a lot on Godzilla, and then we bring Anthony in to help us recruit. And the rest is history. You know, Chase is like my fucking co-host when it comes to the Godzilla Block Party. I say that every week. And you are the right hand when it just comes to the G Show in general. But this dude, he would come on and just be him. You know? This just big, lovable fucking nut of a man. And do you remember, I was saying this to the other two earlier, do you remember when he used to come on and he used to say the GVA takeover?
Yeah.
I'd be like, you son of a bitch, this is my show, you get kicked off, it's the G Show. Things like that, like, I love and miss that, you know, I miss that. Some of the most.
Entirely, there are so few people that you meet in life that are so original as he was, or entirely themselves as he was. That is probably, you know, however you may have agreed with him or disagreed with him, you had to respect that he was always himself. That's the thing that I admired most about him, was just that deep, like, I have a, you know, deep admiration for someone who is themselves entirely at any point, in any social interaction. He was always just himself, whether that be the lovable asshole or somebody that was so genuinely deep and warm and just so full of life.
The lovable asshole. That's exactly what he was. That's exactly what he was. And that's probably exactly what he wanted to be remembered as. You know, that's one of the things that we touched upon earlier today. You know, I know, like, you had a connection to him, probably not as deep as others. But the fact that, you know, in some way, shape, or form, he touched your heart. And again, it could have been just a random podcast where the stars just aligned and it was just like the perfect feeling in the moment and everything. There were a couple that just went so fucking well at the end of the day. I was just like, wow, that was a good one. And then there were more than a couple where I was, I don't know, like 25 beers deep and like that we powered through, and, you know, and that's where the co-host, you, would come into play and help out. And if he was there also, you know, help me out and take the reins.
He always did a very good job of that when things were getting crazy. He always let his opinion be known, but I don't remember. And he just, that's just the natural charisma of the man. Was he had a persuasive way about him where you couldn't help but listen. But I don't remember him, despite the whole GVA takeover thing, I don't remember him ever being domineering.
Right. And he never was. And that's.
So, at least.
What was that?
Intentionally so, at least. He had a habit of just drawing everyone towards him.
Right.
But yeah, and I remember, there was a time where he was having some health issues, and he powered through them just so he could hang out with us and talk about Godzilla. That's just the kind of guy he was, for better or worse. He, in a lot of ways, and knowing him on a somewhat personal level, but really not knowing him as well as others, it seemed like he really dedicated his life to Godzilla in a lot of ways. And for better or worse, that's really admirable. Like that's just the guy he was.
Definitely, for those 2 years, maybe 3 years, however long it was, from GVA's inception to his ultimately pulling the plug on it, you're absolutely right. He was dedicating, whether, again, you agreed with it or not. The health scare things, man, I remember those podcasts because I was like, we're going to stop. We're going to take a break. Mm-hmm. Very seldom do we take a break. There's either A, I've got to pee, okay? Because there's again, like I said, there's too many alcoholic beverages just laid out. Or B, that time, I remember the heavy wheezing, and I'm like, dude, are you okay? We need to break. He needed to just chill for a bit. It scared me to death, but I never ever would have thought. And he explained to us, off air when we did pause, that he had a heart condition and things like that. And never in a million years would I have thought that it would not that young, but it would come and get him. That's one of those things that still,
yeah,
it kills.
Well, he worked so hard to turn his life around too. He lost so much weight. He was doing so well, and it. I don't know a lot of the specifics or the details, but those things can still happen even on your way to turning your life around, and it's a fucking shame.
Yeah, it really is. But yeah. Well, when you're talking about captivating and things, I alluded to this earlier too. One of the things that me and him clicked with was wrestling. Godzilla was the first thing, right? Mm-hmm. But when I met the dude and we started talking more on not a daily basis, but a lot more, let's say a weekly basis, if you will. And then I found out he likes wrestling. And then, we started this thing. And just being able to do this, FaceTime or hang out with each other like this and then talk, whether we were recording or not. And, the love for wrestling, the fact that he was a wrestler at one point in time, granted, he wasn't in the WWE or none of the, shows, but a local wrestler in wherever he was. He knew how to do this, He knew how to get a crowd riled up. He knew how to get a crowd behind him. He was that good. So when you say things like that, when we're off the rails, he knew how to bring it all back and for that I appreciate him. It literally is one of the reasons why I loved having him on, because I knew I could get away with polishing off X amount and being okay. I just had to make sure that I was still focused on, what was being said, but I didn't need to say much, even though I did say a lot, as I'm doing right now.
Mm-hmm. He, every time he was on the podcast with us, whether it was just a few people and, I felt more in my zone, or whether there was a dozen people. If Anthony was there, I knew it was going to be a good time, and I knew that I was going to have fun. Because those bigger ones back in those days, they were very stressful for me because there was so much going on. But I remember one specific time. This is somewhat unrelated, just feeling nostalgic now. You asked a question, and there was probably like 8 or 9 of us on the podcast at one time. You asked a question, and then 8 or 9 people answered at the same time, exact same time, because that's just, how it was back in those days. Very stressful. But when Anthony was there, I knew I was going to have a good time with it.
Yeah, I've learned a lot since them days. And, as we've gotten older, we've also shed a couple of pounds ourselves. Unfortunately, I would love to have those pounds still with us, but it is what it is. But, at the end of the day, this is a celebration of Anthony. And I am happy that you were able to jump on and share some of your memories and some words on his behalf for us on the block party. Because, again, it was me and you from the beginning, bro. Like, legit, this YouTube channel took off with me and you. And I've said it in previous podcasts, recent podcasts. It's not about the fame. It's more about the idea of being able to have these conversations with people like-minded and enjoy them. And I do. Like we talked about, the very first podcast that we did was about Batman versus Superman, and it was just me and you, and it was like a 2-hour podcast reviewing that movie, and it was just fun because we're like-minded people. And then we get to the Godzilla, and then we get to Anthony, and then we get to the 8 and 9 to 12 people at one time on a podcast, and it gets uncomfortable for you. And I'm over here like, yeah, here we go. And, just all of that it's a blessing when you look back at it. Yes, it might have been some stressful times, but we're here now, and unfortunately our friend ain't. No, that's like a weird question. If you had anything else to say, anything you wanted to say to Anthony right now, what would you tell him?
Just that I fucking miss him. I miss his personality. I miss his heart. I miss his passion. Since he's been gone, there is no real community outside of the Godzilla Block Party. There is no Facebook community. I don't know what Chase does on Instagram, but he seems to pull a lot from there. So, maybe there's something there, but, without him, there's been nothing. And I've, moved away from it over the years, but, I've still stayed friends with, or am friends with, the people from back in those days. And it seems like a lot of them have moved on with their lives too. And, if Anthony were still here, maybe the Facebook Godzilla Kaiju community would be, it would certainly be an entirely different landscape than it is now. I have no doubt that if he wanted to, he could completely dominate. Like, he already cornered the market on Facebook. If he wanted to, he could completely corner the market on Instagram, on maybe Twitter, and then eventually he would absorb us, and he would take over YouTube as well, just because that's the kind of guy he was. Not in a bad way, but he brought us all together, and he brought new people in that would have never known there was a voice for their passion, or even kids just getting into the Godzilla fandom, whether it be because of 2014 or Shin Godzilla or whatever. If he was still here, I think more people would still feel like they had a voice.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, that was beautifully said. Thank you, my brother, for being here. Thank you.
I wouldn't miss it.
Thank you for sharing your words. Seriously, bro. Wow, I appreciate that.
Of course.
And I'm here right now, finally, and I am joined by my right hand when it comes to Godzilla on the G Show page. G73, Megsy, my brother Chase. And honestly, if it wasn't for Anthony, we would not know each other. Is that a fair statement to make?
That's more than fair. That's the absolute fact.
It is the absolute fact. He's the one that, and I just had this conversation with JR and Andrew, and again with Matt. Anthony was the one when we first started the YouTube channel, just me and Matt, and we knew we wanted to do a Godzilla podcast. We reached out to Anthony because he had a lot of, he had his fingers in a lot of pies, if you will. And we asked him, hey, do you know anybody that would be down to podcast about Godzilla? And bro, you were the first name he said. And I am forever grateful and thankful for that, honestly, because we have this relationship now. You know what I mean? I call you my right hand when it comes to Godzilla because that is exactly what you are. I'm not able, I love Godzilla, but I'm not able to, you know, I don't get the news at 1 o'clock in the morning like you do. I don't get any kind of breaking stuff unless the breaking news comes when you're sleeping. You know, like 9 o'clock in the morning.
4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, right? But, so, like, and we remember Anthony here, because of him, you're in my life and I'm in your life. And honestly, I can't see any other way. Like, to me, and I hate to sound cliched, but this feels destined. So I want to ask you, brother, and again, thank you for joining me. You don't know how much this means. What was it? You know, like what does Anthony mean to you? And like just bringing you aboard and a part of this whole, you know, the culture now. This YouTube channel, the G Show pod, the Block Party. How do you feel about all of this, bro?
I am for the terms of just the Godzilla Block Party in general. It's not only just a honor, but it's probably one of the best opportunities for me to have gotten into because it keeps me out of trouble. I don't sit on my Thursdays and Fridays just bored, you know, sitting doing nothing. And, you know, I get to sit and talk about my favorite thing with some of my favorite people. And that's just, I mean, you can't put a price on that, you know, and it means more to me to be able to do that than anything I'm doing right now anyways, you know, next to, you know, doing some other things like getting into Dungeons and Dragons or stuff like that, doing the Godzilla Block Party, that is a passion. It's not a hobby. It's not a thing for me that's just like doing it just to do it. I'm doing it because it's a passion of mine. It's a thing that is a very healing thing for me to do, and it keeps a big piece of what I love alive. And that's many things that are all the people that were Godzilla fans that I've lost. And those are also just the love of Godzilla being kept, you know, just the love of kaiju, because it's not just Godzilla when we talk about it, you know? So to me, it is probably one of the, if not the greatest, one of the greatest things to be placed down in front of me, and me being able to have a opportunity and you know, Anthony being able being the one that was able to push me in your guys' direction. I can't I can't thank him enough, because it's not just even that. It's my pages, the pages we've done. He has excelled on these things that, on getting awareness out to my pages and stuff like that, and bringing me onto the Godzilla block party, and then being a part of GVA for a bit, before he decided to axe it and call it quits. And, being a part of that was fun, because I made tons of friends, and I got to kind of understand that, the fandom can be in shambles quite a bit, but when you're the people on the other end, like, not being shook by the fandom, and you're fighting back with humor is one of the greatest weapons. And I appreciate that. And that taught me a big lesson of being able to laugh about the things you love is a big thing to have just in life in general, And, man, I thank Anthony for all of that, because if it weren't for him, I mean, I wouldn't be talking to Matt. I wouldn't be talking to you. I wouldn't be talking to Andrew. I wouldn't be talking to anybody. I wouldn't be talking to JR. I mean, I would just be on my pages, and I probably would have stopped. I probably would have stopped doing my pages, because, I probably wouldn't have pursued the Godzilla news and stuff like that. But, I mean, I would have done it for myself, but I wouldn't be putting on a platform. But, with him, he gave me the opportunity to keep that and turn it into a passion, and I don't want to stop doing this.
I will never forget when we reached out to him, and your name was the first person. Because again, I had no clue. I didn't know what I was doing. And I was just talking to Matt about this. And he could testify. We had no direction. I had no direction. We were just throwing everything out there. All I knew was I started the G Show Facebook page with my partner back then, and I knew that a lot of it was going to be dedicated to Godzilla. It definitely has changed, the Facebook page. It was always going to be a geek culture page, but I wanted to heavily focus on Godzilla, which is where I met all of y'all, and Anthony is a big part of that. We were talking earlier about how Anthony, for the G Show, and this page started, in October of 2012. He was one of the first people to comment, and not just comment on like, "Hey, nice pic, bro." He was, articulate with his comments. He knew what he was talking about. He messaged us, and and he was very smart. Like, he was always there. He was there from the beginning. It's so weird. And you know what the crazy thing is, my brother? This is no, I know you don't, but get ready for this. This is kind of his legacy, if you think about it, because I went to him. It was just me and Matt, and I told Matt, I said, "Hey, you know who knows people? This guy, Anthony." And he was like, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's get him," because I knew that I wanted to have a Godzilla chat where there was going to be a lot of people there. And if y'all listen to what Matt said, sometimes it's uncomfortable because there's a lot of people. I get that. But what Anthony did, and again, you were the first name he threw out there, and I was like, who is this guy? And I mean, it just clicked. It literally just clicked. And that's why every time, we do the podcast, you are introduced as the right hand of the G Show when it comes to Godzilla, because that's what you are. You are my go-to guy. And if it wasn't for him, I would not know you. You would not know me. You would not be the right hand. And this podcast, honest to God, bro, it wouldn't even be that. It wouldn't be what it is. It would not be what it is. We've been through a lot. You know what I'm saying? I started with Matt, and I continued with you, and now we have gams and shit. But and it's all thanks to him. He introduced all of that to us. So what does that mean for you?
No, man, that I up until this point, I never knew how that conversation necessarily went down. So for me to be the first name he threw out, or one of them,
No, the first, not one of them. You were the first name
to be the first name that Anthony put out for the suggestion. That means a lot to me, because that means that he thought more highly of me than I thought he did, and he thought highly of me a lot, because he loved all of us, and that means a lot knowing that now. So I thank you for that. But to me, that it just, I agree. It seems like it's his legacy. It's a little bit of his shadow, his little bit of his business, going on, and the legacy exactly is the best way to put it. And that means a lot to me, and it's one of those things where it's hard, it's hard to think that, with him not being around, it's like, why, so I, rest in peace, Anthony. You're a god in my books, dude. And if it weren't for you, my life would be a hell of a lot more boring. The Godzilla fandom would definitely be not as interesting, at least for me.
No, you're not the only one to say that. I swear to God, you're not, and that's in this podcast. I said I spoke a lot. I gave my stories on the initial podcast. And like I said at the top of this particular one, I'm glad that I was able to catch you tonight. I know you couldn't be on the podcast proper, even though you're here, but you're here in a snippet. But in terms of being there when we went and did it, me, Gams, and JR. But you and Matt, you guys are different components. And I love Gams, I love JR. They are totally right there. But like I said, Matt was the first, because we started this together, and then when we asked for help to Anthony, he recommended you. Everybody else came in later. So it's like this little trifecta here. You know what I mean? It means a lot to me. It does. It does. And it's because of that man. You know what I mean? Whether me and Matt went to him and then recommending you, he's such a good dude. One thing we all kept saying in all of our spiels was he alienated a lot of people, but he gathered so many to his cause.
Oh, dude, absolutely. Right? And that's what I loved about the guy. It was like the loyalty was given tenfold. And yet he would also make fun of you too.
Exactly. And it's funny because I was saying this. I wasn't particularly fond of his brand of humor. To me, Godzilla was sacred, and he was just like, no, Godzilla is not off limits. But, and this is why I loved him, Godzilla was sacred to him too. This is why he did it. He pushed boundaries, but he never he never went overboard. JR was saying this earlier today. JR was going overboard, and he had to get all of his things approved. And Anthony was like, slow down, buddy. This can't go, this can't go, this can't go. And for a page like GVA that, he co-created with Mark, just to hear him say, this ain't appropriate, when there was nothing appropriate about that page.
I know. Wait, yeah.
You were a part of that.
Anthony?
Yeah, you were a part of that. So let me ask you.
Appropriate.
Let me ask you the way I asked Andrew, like the way I asked Gam Gams and JR. Let me ask you, being a part of that crew, what was some of the best things you took from it, from being in GVA?
Oh, dude, the best thing was the Shin Godzilla leak. We fucking got a video, and it was me and Anthony brought the idea to me, and we posted this link, and it was a link that had the portrayal of a download for a movie, and it had like the runtime and everything. We got the exact runtime of Shin Godzilla, and we put it that when you clicked on the link, it was a picture of Zilla that popped up like 5 or a minute and a half into it. And Zilla would pop up, and it said, "Ha ha ha, got you, NFAGT." And we set that up, and that's my favorite thing because it would show you how many people would click on the link, and by the next, I remember it was like 3 a.m. when I put it up, and when I woke up at 10 a.m. and looked at it, it was over 10K views, clicks already, and it was counting. And by the end of like the month, it was like up in like 20K. It was slowly going up more and more and more. But just to know that many people bought into it and looked at it and got to see that, because it only counted when they got to the full end of the joke. So I love that. And, Anthony and I did a lot of going back and forth, trying to plan out certain things and stuff like that. And so it was great. But that's probably one of my biggest things I remember and stuff. And then like I did a Shin Godzilla one where it was him when he's about to destroy Tokyo, or I think it's Tokyo, where he shoots his black breath, and when his jaw starts to split, I did the like a scary lullaby, and that was like Andrew's idea, but I put it together, and then I started seeing other people doing incarnations of it, and we were talking about that, and then I remember Anthony was bringing it up to my attention, and that's what got us, I think, more into the idea of leaking, like making a leak, and that was just some of my favorite stuff because the jokes and the laughter it brought with that, being in that chat and talking to all of them and stuff. And I'm totally not that type of person. I won't go out of my way to troll because I just have no patience. But being in the garrison of Anthony's brigade, that it made it okay.
I love it.
I got a few more minutes, but I'm just going to say Anthony, in my opinion, is a kaiju in itself, in himself, man. And he, and I mean that in a great way, because he was he was a force of nature of his own. And, man, that guy, I owe a lot to him. A lot.
I think we all do, my brother. He gave to the community. And again, whether you liked it or not, he gave to the community. But we were fortunate enough to know him, the man himself. And yes, he wrestled a lot of Jimmys, his quote. He made a lot of people mad, but he also made a lot of people laugh. And that's something that you cannot take away. But what I look at is the bonds and friendships I forged because of that man. You, Andrew, JR, Lindsay, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But the fact that we're still able to do this, and and let's be for real here. You know as well as I do, what would have been better than him, Anthony, being with us on that King of the Monsters review? Nothing. I just like remember how we went at him with Shin Godzilla. Like we butted heads many a times, and it's always so much fun. And at the end of the day, nothing but love. And this is something that I can't stress enough, and I've said it so far every time I've spoke. You might know him as one thing, some dude who posts, silly memes, funny memes, hateful, hurtful memes. But we knew him. We knew the man. And that wasn't his nature. He is one of the biggest hearts, and just a stand-up guy, man. And honestly, if it wasn't for him, me and Chase right now would not be having this conversation. And for that, I appreciate him because he brought my brother right here into my life.
And I'm looking forward to doing this till we can't do it no more.
Until Toho says it's over.
Yeah, until Toho, Kansas puts us on a hiatus for 12 years and then comes back with a movie and then decides to do a Shin Godzilla of us.
Brother, it's Board Game City from here on out.
Yep.
Well, listen, brother, I appreciate you, giving some of your time. I know you're out of town and you're doing other things, but dude, this means so much to me that, I was able to get you on because, again, you were the first person he recommended. And you are such an integral part of this podcast. Like, we have our breaks, but I cannot do this without you. So I give thanks to him, and I, of course, give thanks to you, and I love you.
I love you too, man. I'm grateful I was able to get a couple minutes to come and chat a little bit. I was crushed when you were like, hey, we're going to do this. And I'm like, wait, we're doing that now? I mean, I was like, I didn't want to be out of town for that. But
no, and
I was glad at least I got to say a little bit of be part of this, and I'm glad for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, in hindsight, like we tend to forget, things we don't want to remember. You know what I mean? So This is one of those things. Like, yeah, you think I want to remember that the last time I spoke to him, as of this recording, was tonight, and I didn't speak to him. He sent me a message, and then I wasn't able to talk to him anymore. So I totally understand. It just slips your mind. But again, I am glad I was able to get you for a couple of minutes. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, me too. It doesn't make it feel as bad.
All right, brother. Before I let you go, talk to the man real quick. Just say whatever's on your mind, and we're out of here.
Anthony, man, I love you wherever you are, dude. I would love for anything for you to be playing a big old troll and just be coming out like when Shin Godzilla 2 comes out and being like, ha, got you guys, and I'm directing it.
Yes!
And that's where I've been for a couple of years. I wish that. But man, I wish you nothing but peace, dude. Peace, and watch over all of us. And until we see you on the other side, my friend. And, thanks for everything. I'm never going to forget you, man.
Brother,
and,
I love you, man.
Yeah, I love you too, dude.
Thank you again. I really appreciate you taking your time out and doing this.
Absolutely. No, I wouldn't have missed it.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Godzilla Blog Party. I am G1, and we are out of here. Rest in peace, Anthony.